of Fox Sports.
We are Fox. We are Ohio.
Old man winter is still hanging around in the frozen tundra of Wisconsin. They had nearly 7 inches of snow here yesterday, 30 inches in Green Bay. But to have a roof at Miller Park doesn't get any better now. Reds and the Brewers in the first of 3 from here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Hi again, everybody. Alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day, Tom Brenneman. Welcome to Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio. We know how good Luis Castillo was last year for the Reds and expecting big things this year. The Brewers saw him a couple of times last year, and they just as soon not see him again.
Well, they saw the best of Luis Castillo, I can tell you that. And it was a pretty good hitting ball club last year, a team that eventually came in second place. Castillo basically shut them down. He had impeccable control, 19 strikeouts over 2 starts, and they probably thought this guy ought to be in the race for the Cy Young Award. Well, when he gets his act together, he can be. He's got overpowering stuff, great changeup, but he's still learning on the job.
Talk about a contrast of styles. Castillo against a Cincinnati Moeller High graduate Brent Suter here tonight.
Well, you know, Castillo at 96 miles an hour, that's the average speed of his fastball. That is 5th best in the National League. When you compare Brent Suter, he is the slowest fastball in the National League. But you know what? The hitters don't hit the radar gun. They hit what they see out there, and Suter throws a nice little cutter. He's got a nice changeup. He's a guy that obvious when the Milwaukee Brewers picked him up out of Harvard, he's got a pretty good game plan as well. He's had 3 starts, mixed success. We'll see what he's got tonight.
You mentioned these Brewers, high expectations for this team. I mean, during the offseason, they bring in Lorenzo Cain as a free agent. They make the trade for a very talented player in Christian Yelich. But injuries have been a huge factor so far this year for this team being 8 up and 8 down.
Yeah, you know, both of these teams right now are playing with a short bench. Some of these guys, and you're looking at 3 of the guys on the left are on the disabled list right now, and they would be starters. Of course, Knievel is their closer. But you've got a couple of guys just like the Reds do, who aren't injured enough to be on the disabled list, but they just can't play, like Eric Thames and Ryan Braun.
Meanwhile, Joey Votto loves coming to Miller Park. Outside of a couple of categories here or there, he is hit in this ballpark unlike any other ballpark. Take a look at those numbers. Nearly a career .350 batting average in this park.
Well, I mean, I think there's every hitter in baseball loves to come to Miller Park. It's an offense park. They talk about how good the batter's eye is and how well they see the ball in here. And for Joey Votto, he picks up on it. When he sees it well, look out. It's a line drive waiting to happen.
Well, Joey looking for his first home run, and maybe it'll come tonight or in this series when we return. Speaking of home runs, a whole pile of them between these 2 teams last year. Jim Day has that in a moment.
Reds and Brewers set to tangle once again. Over the last few seasons, when these two teams get together, it is a slugfest. Last year, they took it to a new level. It's our IGS bringing the energy. These two teams in the season series combined for 72 home runs in 2017. Second most in a single series all time, a single season series all time. You got to go back to 1961 Giants versus Braves, where they slugged 73 home runs. Take that a step further. The Reds, 34 home runs, most in any season versus an opponent since 1957 when Frank Robinson was cranking them out. Duvall and Votto led the way. And how about the Brewers? 38 home runs. That's the most versus any team in any season in Brewers history. And what a start for Eric Thames at the beginning of the season versus the Reds. What's in store in the single season series in 2018? Part 1 is coming up. Tom and Chris have the call next.
All the snow and so forth. Brian Price and the Reds looking to try and end this 8-game losing streak. Let's take a look at his starting lineup tonight, presented by Nissan. It'll be Hamilton in center, Peraza at short, Votto at first, Duvall in left, the cleanup batter, the former Brewer Scooter Gennett, and then Phillip Ervin again in right field. Still no Jesse Winker. Tucker Barnhart behind the plate, Goslin the start at third, and Castillo on the mound. Brent Suter is 28 years young. A Moeller High Crusader, still makes his offseason home in Greater Cincinnati and pitched collegiately at Harvard.
Well, Brent Suter is not one of those overpowering guys that you look at and you say, well, you know, he's a can't-miss major leaguer. In fact, a lot of people are surprised that he made it this far. 31st round is what it took for him to finally get drafted into professional baseball out of Harvard. But he's a guy, Tom, that acts and is able to deceive the hitter, and that's really what it's all about for pitching. You know, the one thing that has stood out in him so far in his career, when he's really going good, he can go deep into a ball game. So far, though, after the third time through the order, that's when the guys begin to time him a little bit. And he's only gone about 5 innings, only been into the 6th inning once.
So here we go. First pitch swinging Billy Hamilton, strike one, and this one underway. Reds, of course, in their road gray with a red trim. And Suter among the quickest workers on the mound. And I don't think it's a stretch to say in the history of baseball. I mean, this guy gets a ball, and he is ready to go right now.
You know, if you make a short list of those pitchers that are ready to go right now, they seem to be all left-handed. Mark Burley was like that. Tom Browning was like that. I mean, show me a right-hander that pitches that quickly, and he's already got a strikeout.
Hamilton gone to begin the game.
Little check swing at the dirt.
Now hold on now, you're the guy that corrected me and told me there's no such thing as a check swing.
Oh no, there's a check swing. You can check the swing, but it's either going to be a ball or a strike.
It's either a swing or it's not.
Right.
Jose Peraza was on a pretty good run here over about the last week or so until the last couple of days, but has certainly shown much more solid contact than we saw by and large the entire 2017 season. Saw a lot of that kind of contact at the end of 2016. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Now Suter last year pitched in 22 games for the Brewers, 14 of them as a starter. He had 6 different stints up and down from the minor leagues, 6 of them. And he was named as the Brewers' unsung hero. In his starts, his ERA was 3.4. As a reliever, it was 3.1. So pretty consistent, whether it be getting the ball in inning number 1 or coming on from the bullpen. 2-2 on Jose Peraza. Breaking ball lifted to short right. And out there is Domingo Santana. Look at the Brew Crew on defense, presented by Ford. What with all the injuries, they've got Hernan Perez out in left field, Kane the big free agent in center, Santana coming off his best year in the major leagues in right. Shaw, of course, the son of Jeff Shaw. RC the shortstop, VR at second, Aguilar is at first. This Brewers team on defense has committed 18 errors so far this year. And just for comparison's sake, the Reds committed just 11. 18 of them. 10 of them have been committed by the quartet of infielders they have on the field right now. Nothing in 2 on Joey Votto. Gave you the numbers a little while ago on Votto. He loves sitting in this ballpark. He's played 156 games here. Nearly 540 at-bats. And that's against the Brewers overall. In this ballpark, 73 games and a .344 batting average with 52 runs batted in. That ball shot into left field, a base hit for Votto. So a 2-out single will keep things alive for Adam Duvall.
You know, with Votto's on-base percentage historically and throughout his career being close to, 450, he's on every other time up there. So if you give him a 2-out base hit, as a pitcher, it's really no big deal. You don't want that leading off the inning, but I'm sure that really doesn't break up Brent Suter very much. Of course, you'd rather not pitch to Adam Duvall. He's got the home run power.
And Adam clubbed his 3rd home run of the season yesterday. That came in a tough 1-run defeat to the Cardinals. For Votto, he's made history, becoming the 10th Reds player all time to reach 1,600 career hits. And he joins, by the way, Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols as Major League Baseball's only active players with at least 1,600 hits and 1,000 walks. How about running with that company? Pujols and Cabrera. All 3 of those guys one day going to the Hall of Fame. That'll take care of Duvall. The Reds' opening inning comes to an end. A hit, a man left. Luis Castillo makes his 4th start when we come back. Bears. Manager of the Brewers is 47-year-old Craig Counsell, a Milwaukee native. And his lineup presented by Nissan. VR at second, Kane in center, Santana in right, Shaw at third, Aguilar at first, Perez in left. Arcia, Bandy, Suter the latter third. And on the mound for the Reds, start number 4, an 0-2 record is Luis Castillo.
Well, coming really out of his best start so far this season. Went into the 7th inning, pitched 6 overall, gave up only 3 runs, and did not walk about it. That was at Philadelphia against the Phillies.
Ball 1 on the speedy VR. Overall numbers for Castillo, 16 innings pitched in his 3 starts. He's allowed 17 hits, struck out 13, but allowed 13 earned runs. 1-1 to VR, who's playing well this year. He's off to a good start. He's been a guy that's been pretty reckless on the base pass, steals a lot of bases, but makes a lot of base running mistakes. And they say so far this year, much more under control.
Well, he's a guy that had a breakout season in 2016, and they had all-star aspirations for VR really from then on, but he fell basically off the face of the earth last year, to the point at which he couldn't even find playing time in the second half of the season. And there was a question mark going into spring training whether he would be the everyday second baseman, but here he is and playing pretty well.
Fastball hit down the left field line towards the corner and just fouled. Let's take a look at the Reds on defense, presented by Ford. Hamilton flanked by Duvall and again Irvin. Winker was going to take some light batting practice before the game today to see if he's coming along even to be used as a pinch hitter. Goslin, Peraza, Jeanette, and Votto along the infield. I got a little ahead of myself a minute ago. Votto still needs to get that one more walk. He now has 1,600 hits. There's Jesse Winker, but he needs one more walk to officially get to 1,000. Fastball paints the inside corner at 96. Strikeout for Luis Castillo.
You know, here at Miller Park, we have an unusual camera angle from center field right down the line, right over the center of the pitcher's rubber, right over the top of the pitcher, and you can see it very well without having to estimate where the inside and outside corner is. And that was a perfectly placed fastball.
Lorenzo Cain, now 31 years young. Originally a Brewer, came up to the Major League Club in 2010. Moved on to Kansas City, where he really became just an outstanding player. An all-star a couple of years ago. And then his final season with the Royals last year, an even .300 batter, hit 15 home runs, 27 doubles, stole 26 bases. And as the old saying goes, you can't go home again. Because here he is back with the Brewers, signing as a free agent.
Well, it was his free agent year. He went to play in Kansas City, and the one thing he did in Kansas City that he's never been able to do before is stay off the disabled list. All year long he was healthy. That really helped him, and he got a nice contract here in Milwaukee. We had a conversation before the ball game. It was aired on Reds Live with Bill Schroeder, the Brewers TV analyst, and I asked him, I said, you know, who's the best player in this ball club right now? And he named Lorenzo Cain. They've got some pretty big names on this club, so that's high compliments for this young man. One other thing he did last year, Tom, he really improved his contact rate. He was always a big swinger, took big swings, trying to hit a lot of home runs, and didn't hit enough contact for a guy that hits up early in the order.
No contact there, and back-to-back strikeouts to begin the night for the Red starter Luis Castillo.
You may say no contest right there with the way that was basically pitcher abuse. Fastball in, good night with the slider. Well, this is what's so intriguing and almost mouth-watering about Luis Castillo. I mean, when he can do that type of thing. I mean, his stuff, when you start evaluating his stuff individually, this is what most scouts try to do. They break it on down. You know, what has he got here with the fastball? Where does it rank? Where does his velocity rank? Where does his movement rank? Where does his deception rank? Now, I mean, in each one of those categories, Castillo is basically off the charts. But it's now up to him to put it all back together and make himself into a legitimate top-of-the-rotation major league pitcher.
Strike away from fanning the side in the opening inning. Straight up in the air. And appears to be playable for whom? Urban a long way to come get it. And that'll end the inning. Nice start for Castillo. No score at the end of one.
Brent Suter, they call him the Raptor because he runs like one. He kind of slouches when he runs, and when he runs by the relievers, they started going roar like a dinosaur. And they took it a step farther. Former Reds employee Mike Vasallo, who's the PR director for the Brewers, asked him what he wanted his walk-up music to be, and he said, I don't know, why don't you pick it for me? And Mike Vasallo picked the theme from Jurassic Park. So if you hear that when he comes to the plate or on the mound, you'll know why he's called the Raptor.
Very, very nice.
I'll tell you, he looks a little bit bigger this year, doesn't he? Physically, they say he added about 20 pounds of muscle, and it looks like he's been in the weight room a little bit. Now, it hasn't gotten his velocity up to hitting speed yet. That's something he probably does not want to do. But for a pitcher to add muscle doesn't always translate to faster pitches. It may mean more durability, as long as you don't overdo it in the weight room and hurt yourself trying to, become a Charles Atlas. Here are the bottom of the barrel, I guess, when it comes to the speed of the pitches of the fastballs. Kyle Hendricks, Josh Tomlin, and Brent Suter.
Starting to say the guys after Suter on that list have put together pretty doggone good major league careers.
I really don't see that there's a correlation. Now, the hardest thing for Suter, even right now, I mean, if he could go to a tryout camp and disguise his age and disguise him from any scouts, there wouldn't be teams falling all over trying to sign him, believe me. And he's a legitimate major league starter. So it just goes to show you what kind of the ingrained attitude that you have to throw harder, stronger, nastier in order to be a good pitcher. And it's not necessarily the case.
This ball is drilled into the right center field gap off the bat of Urban. This could be three. Urban digging hard, and he is going to slam on the brakes. Got the stop sign from his third base coach. He picked up immediately Billy Hatcher. So a one-out double for Urban. Second hit for the Reds.
Well, he didn't waste any time at all. What Suter is doing is throwing a lot of fastballs and so early in the count. It looks like that could have been an off-speed pitch, but he lines it in the gap, does Irvin. And you see him take a look over his left shoulder right there as he approaches second base. He's about 15 to 18 feet from second base. He's not looking out to right field. He's looking to third base to pick up Billy Hatcher. Hatcher's going to tell him whether it's safe to come to third or not.
Scoring chance now for the Reds, and against a left-hander, it'll be the right-handed batting Tucker Barnhart, and there's a base hit into left center field that'll get the Reds on the board. They're waving him around. Arcia's throw will come to the plate, and just beating the throw is Irvin going in head first. Well, when that ball left the bat, you thought for sure, but Irvin had to wait a second to see if the shortstop would catch that ball. It's a 1-0 game.
Yeah, I think that Phillip even actually went back a step to make sure that he didn't get picked off. He didn't know exactly where that shortstop was, because that shortstop could have moved during the pitch. But Irvin has good speed, good slide right there, and a lot closer at home plate than I think that Billy Hatcher probably thought it would be. So the Reds on the board.
It's a good way to get started on this road trip. 1-0 here in the second inning, and now the number 8 hitter Goslin, the batter. Barnhart, his 4th run batted in this season. Tucker, one of the Reds, off to a nice start offensively. That's already his 11th hit in his 37th at bat.
Off to a nice start defensively too, as usual.
And that one into center field, another base hit, 3 in a row, producing a run. And now the pitcher Castillo is corralled by Brian Price over in front of the Reds dugout. And Price is out of the dugout, standing there talking to Castillo before he makes his way to the plate.
Well, he has shown himself to be able to swing the bat a little bit for a guy that comes off the bench, doesn't figure to get everyday playing time, and hasn't. That puts the bat on the ball.
For Goslin, this is only his 2nd start of the year. He was the last Reds position player to start a game this year when he got the call at third base on Wednesday in Philadelphia. Can't roll it out there any better than that. Beautifully done by Castillo, and the runners will advance. His first sacrifice of the year.
Boy, I think Travis Shaw really did the Reds a favor right there. They had Tucker Barnhart just dead to rights. It was a forced play at third base, and this is very peculiar. I think that maybe he just didn't think that the shortstop got there in time. But watch where Shaw's going to catch this ball, and watch where Barnhart is. I mean, Barnhart's quite a ways away from the bag right there. Up. Sacrifice is successful, and a couple of runners in scoring position.
Billy Hamilton struck out leading off the game, and now he bats with runners at second and third and 2 away. Reds on the board with a run here in the second inning, and sniffing some more. It's the first time in 2 plate appearances that Hamilton has seen a pitch from Suter out of the strike zone.
Nice when your leadoff hitter bats twice in the first 2 innings.
That one hung up there a little bit. Billy fouls it back. Suter gets ahead at 1 ball, 2 strikes.
You know, if you're right-handed, you have to make sure that you're willing to hit the ball to right field off a guy like Brent Suter. I mean, he'll come inside a lot, but if you're trying to pull that outside soft stuff, you're going to end up popping it up and grounding it out.
Shot into right field. A base hit by Hamilton will score 2 more. Big time 2-out hit for Billy Hamilton, and that makes it a 3 spot for the Reds here in the second inning.
Well, they've done it by swinging the bat. No walks involved at all in this rally so far in the second. The high pitch Looked like a high cutter, maybe a slider by Suter. And Hamilton committing to go the other way and picks up a couple of ribbies.
RBIs 4 and 5 for Billy. Derek Johnson is a pitching coach. His 3rd season under Craig Counsell. You know, normally this is not the MO, as Chris brought up earlier on Suter. Generally, he begins games throwing the ball very well and getting people out, not giving up much.
It doesn't look like he's got a real good breaking ball tonight. And maybe that's the one difference. But the Reds are leveling on him. They're not doing, you know, they're not knocking the fences down. I think the hardest hit ball was probably a double by Phillip Ervin to right center field. But they are committed to hit the ball the other way, and that's so important.
3 runs, 4 hits for the Reds, and this one up the middle. Arcia, the pirouette, the throw. What a nice play by the Milwaukee shortstop. But a nice inning for the Redlegs, up 3.
Older gentleman said, hey, hit it on the ground, just run as fast as you can. A little kid beside him said, no, hit a home run and jog around. It's a lot easier. So he hits a home run, points at the youngster, takes it a step further, and gives the youngster his batting gloves. One of those priceless moments in baseball. And Billy Hamilton said that he was thinking about the kid right when he hit it.
Great stuff indeed. I'm sure that young man was celebrated beyond description rolling into school today. Pride of Washington Courthouse, Ohio. Of course, his father, a former all-star pitcher with the Reds, Jeff Shaw. This is Travis Shaw, and that's one thing he can do is hit. Coming off a big year, his first full year as a Milwaukee Brewer in 2017. Shaw not a threat to run. They do have some base stealing ability up and down this Brewers lineup when fully healthy, but Shaw would not be a part of that. Big Jesus Aguilar, coming off a big weekend in New York, had a couple of 3-hit games already this year. I'm not sure any backup player in all of Major League Baseball did more damage with the bat than Aguilar did a year ago for the Brewers. Wasn't a regular player. He only made 55 starts, but he drove in 52 runs. He hit 16 home runs. This should be 2. And it is.
It's always nice to have a two-seam sinking fastball in your arsenal for a double play situation. And that's one of the things that the Reds minor league coaches made sure that Luis Castillo had before he came up here to the major leagues. And this young man's got a four-seamer that goes up around 95, 96 miles an hour. He's also in the minor leagues hit 100. But I think he's a lot better when he backs off a little bit and has some movement. That two-seamer really helps.
He's rushing it up there tonight. That fastball at 97. First pitch strike to Hernan Perez, a left fielder. One of the more versatile players is Perez in all of Major League Baseball. He's really the Brewers equivalent of the guy we've heard to a lot in Javier Baez of the Cubs. Started 3 games at second. Now 3 in left. 1 game at third. Another game in center field so far this year. Speaking of the Cubs, snowed out earlier today at Wrigley with the Cardinals in town. Always a big rivalry. That is a fair ball and a good play made by Gosling behind the bag. Good start for Castillo. The Reds have given him a 3-0 lead. Looks at a strike. Joey single to left his first time up. Reds got a double from Irvin with 1 out in that 3-run second inning. Scored on a single by Barnhart after another hit, then a bunt. Hamilton delivered a 2-out, 2-strike. 2-run single to right field. That's a fair ball for Von. No, they're saying foul ball. Boy, very close down there.
Looked like it kicked up some chalk line, Tom.
Sure
but
did.
maybe, down in that area, it looks like that's the one part of the dirt where they don't water very much, and the chalk line looks a lot like the lighter colored dirt. We'll take a really close look at it. That's a good call.
Yep. Votto making a bid there to collect his first extra base hit of this season. Lined to the third baseman Shaw. A couple of hard hit balls for Votto tonight. When you talk about getting the 3 runs and getting out to a 3-run lead. Brian Price has to love this.
Yeah, he probably doesn't know how to feel right now.
Been a while. 2 balls struck out, ending the first inning. Ball hit sharply into left, will fall in front of Perez, and that's a 1-out single for Adam.
Right now, Brent Suter is keeping the same quick pace between pitches. The difference here is that he's thrown a lot of pitches in the very hittable part of the strike zone. Thigh-high slider right there. He throws fastball, change, and slider. And he's catching a lot of the plate. The Reds have made solid contact up and down the order.
Scooter grounded out to VR, the man who really took his position this time a year ago. They remember we saw VR play shortstop when he first came up. They moved him to third. They moved him over to second. One of the reasons Jeanette became available. And boy, were the Reds glad to get him. Had by far and away the best season of his career, his first as a Red. Straight up in the air, short center field. That's easy for Lorenzo Cain, and that's out number 2 with Duvall remaining at first base.
You know, you would think that Brent Suter, throwing below the major league average as far as his fastball, would be a guy that would live down around the knees and get plenty of ground balls, but that is not anywhere near the case. In fact, he is a very much of a fly ball pitcher. This year, more than ever, he has only 25% ground balls this year, which is off the charts fly ballish. That's what he's done so far in the first 3 games, 5 games, all against the Reds. He's got to have some extra butterflies going on there every time he faces the Reds team. He's got, of course, family and friends back in Cincinnati watching this game, watching every move he makes. And believe me, you carry a little extra burden out there when that happens. It becomes more of an emotional game, no matter how professional you try to be.
And we brought up earlier, if you weren't with us, he still makes his home in Cincinnati during the offseason.
Works out over at Champions Baseball facility in the wintertime. Glad to have him over there.
It's right down there, right along Old Coney Island and Riverbend Music Center. Right there off Kellogg Road, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, now that that area is all dried out, we're ready for a lot of fun down there in the summertime.
That area is one of the great summer spots in all of Cincinnati. Between Coney and the Sunlight Pool.
And the River Star Fields.
Right. It's great stuff. Jam shot, 1 hopper, the short way for the final out. Reds get a hit, leave a runner, but lead after 2.5, 3-zip. Up only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer and by Skyline Chili. Feeling good. It's Skyline time. Buddha Thunkit, middle of April. Half a foot of snow on the ground in Milwaukee and surrounding areas. Some of the towns you look at, 29 inches, 33 inches. Incredible picture I saw earlier today. Remember the old NFL films of the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. They had a picture of the tunnel where the Packers come running out onto the field, and you can see part of the stadium in the background. 33 inches of snow the last 2 days in Green Bay.
Which is basically one snowstorm. And we heard from one of the locals, Tom, here that he said that that is the second most accumulation of snow ever in one storm to go through Green Bay.
How about that? And they get some storms.
You go back to 1888. Whew.
Castillo coming off an 8-pitch second inning. Ahead of Arcia, 0-2, and you knew that was coming.
Oh. He may need all that snow to put a backpack, a little ice pack on after those swings.
Right.
Made my back hurt looking at it. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to strike out, it's another thing to hurt yourself in the process.
And we mentioned earlier, they've got a lot of really good players hurt right now. Pitchers, closer Knable, Jimmy Nelson hurt after diving back into the first base bag, injuring his shoulder. That one's popped up. 4 pitches to get the first 2 outs here in the 3rd inning. You can watch every out-of-market regular season game live at home, in your office, or on the go with MLB.tv. Visit MLB.tv for details. Vandy pops up, and now the pitcher Suter, with the Reds in front 3-0, last of the 3rd. Suter 0 for 5 as a batter so far this year. Of course, he played for our old buddy, who we see at the ballpark virtually every night. Part of the official scoring crew at Great American Ballpark, and that's the great Mike Cameron. And how about that?
Go figure.
A 4-pitch walk with 2 outs to the pitcher.
You know, you can say all you want about it being a mental mistake and so on, and people laugh when I say this, but, you know, there is a letdown that happens after a pitcher gets his first 2 outs in the inning, especially when he looks up and sees the opposing pitcher. The mistake that Castillo did here, though, is that when you go 2-0, that's the time you should take a mental timeout. Relace your shoes, play with the rosin bag, take a lap or 2 around, and just kind of clear your head before you go back and end up walking the pitcher. Sometimes you get caught up in the pace of game when the other guy, Suter, is, you know, getting it and going, You know, you want to be the same way as the opposing pitcher. And sometimes you get going a little bit too quick, and he did in that at bat.
So he faces a leadoff man, VR, who he struck out leading off the game. Fastball into a strike, quickly 0-2. Christian Yelich, who came over from the Marlins in a deal during the offseason, one of the really, really good-looking young players in the big leagues. Came up extremely young. Now, he can come off the disabled list any day now. He took batting practice for a 3rd straight day before the game today. It looked like he went. Oh, on the appeal, they say no. It's Marvin Hudson down there. James Hoy working behind the plate. Jeffrey Kellogg at second. Quinn Wolcott, the umpire, at first. Ryan Braun not on the DL, but a stiff back. Eric Thames off to another big start in the month of April with a hip injury. Vaughn swinging. VR And that's 4 strikeouts through the front 3 for Luis Castillo.
We are thankful for a roof when it's snowy or rainy. Unless you're in Toronto, the Rogers Center, the game between Toronto and Kansas City had to be canceled today and tonight because of falling ice from the nearby CN Tower put a hole in the roof at Rogers Center. So even when you have a roof, you won't necessarily play. But all is well here in Miller Park. No problem with the roof. If we look at other news and notes, Josh Harrison, Cincinnati product, tough break for him. Bartolo Colon, big sexy. A perfect game into the 8th inning last night at 44 years young. And the Twins and the Indians are set to duke it out in Puerto Rico, a 2-game series.
All right, Jimbo, thank you very much. 0-2 on Tucker Barnhart. Reds a 3-run second inning at 4 hits. Tucker knocked in the first run of the game with a single into left center field. Behind here to Cincinnati Moeller High grad Brent Suter to begin the Reds' 4th inning. That's all for Barnhart, and that's strikeout number 3 for Suter.
Yeah, the go-to pitch against right-handers is that changeup, and he's got a good one. Actually, that may have been the slider. They both come in about the same speed, and they both have downward action.
Number 8 hitter Goslin, a part of that 3-run second inning. Had a single into center field. 3rd straight hit that came with 1 out. And then after a bunt by Castillo put a pair of runners in scoring position, Billy Hamilton fell behind 1 and 2 in the count and shot a single down the right field line, driving in a pair. 2-2. Garcia on the first for out number 2, and that'll bring up the pitcher Castillo. And we'll tell you coming up later, we'll have our Hold True moment presented by Miller Lite. A sacrifice bunt for Castillo, his first plate appearance, and on the mound 3 innings of 1-hit shutout baseball. Castillo is 2 for 5 as a batter and has a double. Still a ball and 2 strikes on Castillo, and that'll do it. In a 1-2-3-4, first perfect inning of the game for Suter. But the Reds lead 3-0. Rugged road trip during the entire month of April. Only the Yankees play teams with a higher winning percentage on the road than the Reds do in the season's first month. They've already been to Pittsburgh, off to a big start, Philadelphia. Brewers are a 500 team. They go to St. Louis on this trip. Cardinals are 9-7. And then they have a trip to Minnesota, and the Twins so far 7-4. That will round out the road portion of April, and then you start May. You have a long homestand, and then even though the Dodgers are off to a bad start at 5-9, I mean, they're still the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And you got to go there and San Francisco.
No one feels sorry for you in this business. That's one thing for sure. You know, Tom, when I came over to the ballpark today, you have to go through an entrance where they check your bag. You talk to the guard, and the guard said, "Gee, you guys, 2-13, huh?" He says, "I wish you were 13-2 instead, because you're due for some wins." I said, "You better believe it."
And a good start in that direction so far here tonight with a 3-run second inning. And Castillo really throwing the ball well. So here we are the second time now through the batting order. 2, 3, and 4. Kane, Santana, and Shaw.
It's funny how things work out. Castillo pitched a couple of times against the Brewers last year. We showed you at the very open of the game how good he was. He had struck out 19. I think he only walked 2 or 3 in those games that he pitched against the Brewers. And this just might be one of those teams that he, figuratively throws the glove out on the mound and ends up beating them. You always hope that if you have a team like that, it's in your division.
We brought up earlier the 19 strikeouts in his first 2 starts against the Brewers, tied for 4th most. Mario Soto in his first 2 career starts against the Atlanta Braves. Scooter to the glove side, the pirouette, nice play, out number 1. He fanned 25. Then Soto did it to the Mets at 20 strikeouts, and Gary Nolan, his first 2 career starts against the Giants when they were in the Reds division, struck out 20.
I got to ask you something, Tom Brennan. If a football player does the move right there that Scooter Gennett just did, turns like that, would you call that a pirouette or a 360?
Either one. Just depends on what comes out. A basketball player, probably a 360. Maybe a spin move.
There you go.
I don't know.
I like pirouette. I think you should always try to mix a little arts in with the game of
Sure.
baseball.
And of course, we have one of the great cities for the arts in all of North America. In fact, a couple of years ago, I think we were ranked in the top 5 best cities for the arts. We in Cincinnati in all of North America. Of course, we always remember our late wonderful friend Rick Steiner, who was such a huge part of that, the group that was with. Of all his friends, he graduated from Walnut Hills, all the great shows they had on Broadway. One ball and 2 strikes on Domingo Santana. Oh boy. Good night, Irene. Now the Mets have beaten the Nationals 4 times already this year. They're meeting for the 5th time tonight. This time, what's going on, Brian Giesenslaw? Well, there's no doubt about it, the kind of start that Harper is off to. But Harper and his teammates have to be very concerned about the way they're playing right now. They swept the Reds, you remember, 3 in a row to begin the year. Since then, they are 4-9, and they have just been hammered by the Mets. Mets trying to go to 5-0 against Washington. Bouncing ball. Scooter coming way in to get it. He'll throw out Shaw. And it's a 1-2-3 inning for the 2nd time tonight for Castillo. Klosterman Bakery. You can get half-price Reds tickets. We have live mascot races, face painters, carnival games, a lot going on. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Top of the 5th, Billy Hamilton, a 2-out, 2-strike, 2-run single, capping off a 3-run 2nd inning. The only 3 runs scored by either team in this game. And Hamilton leads things off, to be followed by Peraza and Votto against Brent Suter. Billy, 1 of 2, struck out his first time up before the 2-out single in the 2nd inning. Pirates are trailing 5-1. They open a series tonight at home against Colorado. And we mentioned earlier, Jim said a little while ago, really a shame about another Cincinnati product like Suter. Josh Harrison, the pride of Princeton High School and the University of Cincinnati, going to be out for quite a while. Marcy will cut it loose here. Mercer One away. He's got a cannon for an arm there at short. A little erratic. He's made 3 errors already this year.
A lot of head movement in that at bat for Billy Hamilton, kind of following the pitch all over the place with his head. That time he got jammed badly, and Arcia is one of the best defensive ones around. And that's one of the things, the head movement, especially as it kind of floats over the plate, is one thing they've been trying with Jose Peraza now for quite a while to try to keep him from doing. A little better right there. When you start seeing a batter as a pitcher leaning way out over the plate to follow the pitch on the outer part of the plate, that tells me you're not seeing the outer corner very well.
2 Hopper down to Shaw at third, 2 outs. Joey Votto takes on the Brewers today, presented by AARP. Last year, look at that on base percentage at .518. He had 6 bombs against him and drove in 11. And the 6 home runs the most he's had in any season against Milwaukee. Suter started to settle in a little bit. He gave up the 3 runs and the 4 hits in the 2nd inning. Since then, he's only allowed 1 base runner. That was a 1-out single to Adam Duvall, and he'll get Votto on a half swing in a perfect 5th inning. Reds lead 3-0. Cincinnati Children's changing the outcome together. And by your local Ford dealer, Ford, go further. You know, speaking of Cincinnati Children's Hospital, one of the top children's hospitals, not only in America, but all over the world. The longtime CEO, Michael Fisher. We'd like to send out our thoughts and prayers to him. And he's going through some health issues of his own right now. Had a chance to text back and forth with him a little bit earlier this morning. But man, oh man, you talk about one of the great leaders and the great people and his family in Cincinnati, decade after decade after decade. Michael Fisher, hope you're having a great night. He told me he's watched more Reds games this year than he's had time to watch in the last 2 years combined. So we're thinking of you, saying our prayers for you, and I know you'll be well soon. Gone swinging Aguilar to begin the bottom of the 5th inning, and that is 6 strikeouts now by Castillo.
And he's being very democratic with the strikeouts. Castillo is getting him on just about every different type of pitch that he throws. The changeup, the slider, and of course the fastball as well. One of these nights for Castillo, the things are just working just right for him.
It's good to see. Perez bounced out to the third baseman his first time up. 1 hit, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, no runs for Castillo through the front 4 1/3 innings tonight.
Well, those last 2 pitches, they were right on the edges of the strike zone. Could have gone either way.
That one found the plate. 2-1. Comes back with that changeup at 83. Perez so far out in front, that ball barely made contact with the very end of the bat.
Well, that's the whole idea. I mean, you speed him up with the fastball and you slow him down with the off-speed stuff. That's what Carlos Martinez was able to do for the Cardinals against the Reds this weekend.
Didn't miss by much. Payoff pitch. And he walked it. Second walk of the game for Luis. And now a quick message from Miami Valley Gaming.
You know, when you have an arm like Luis Castillo, the natural thing to do is to raise your expectations, especially when you see him pitch the way he did against the Brewers last year. But you have to temper those expectations. Remember that he's got fewer than 110 innings pitched above AA. He's never pitched in AAA. They came right from Pensacola to the major leagues and has never looked back. So you're going to have some stumbles along the way. You're going to have some walks or some hanging breaking balls or some bad innings that maybe as he gets on and becomes more of a veteran pitcher, you begin to minimize those.
Orlando Arcia, the batter, swing and a miss. I mean, Castillo just abused him his first time up, struck him out on 3 pitches.
Might be the only fastball down the middle he sees here. He got him on a couple of changeups, and Arcia looked like he wrenched his back, looking for a little snowpack.
Arcia was a guy we heard all about for a couple of years. You know, sometimes you'll see the big prospects come up and they'll be up and down and sometimes sent up and down. But once Arcia was brought up to the big leagues, Brett Counsell said he's our guy. And they lived through some growing pains, and last year really had a good year. And figures to be the regular shortstop for many, many moons to come. Well, he wore out the Reds last year, but I mean, we showed you earlier. These two teams, it was virtually a slugfest every time they got together, combining for 72 home runs. I mean, that's the most in a season series for 2 teams, going all the way back to 1973. And there's a rocket off the chest of Irvin. Runners coming to second, and the throw got by Peraza. Boy, they had Arcia out by 45 feet. If they just hit one of the 2 cutoff men.
Well, I'm wondering if maybe Jose Peraza saw Orlando Arcia in the corner of his eye. A play by Irvin. He's able to keep it in front of him, and then he throws it back into the infield. Keeps the ball down, but that ball's got to be blocked right there. Now, normally you don't think the runner's going to be coming into second base. I don't think that Peraza saw him. But if he's able to block that ball and come up clean with it, you've got Arcia dead to rights for the second out of the inning at second base. Irvin gets the error. Or they're going to give him one.
I think they're going to rule that a straight double.
Okay.
Now, had Arcia stopped at first and then maybe gone halfway and then saw an errant throw and took off for second base, they might go single there.
See, I think that Arcia was betting on Irvin coming up with the ball and throwing to third base, and he was just going to be the trail runner sliding into second.
Well, then maybe they did give him a single and he went to second on the throw. We have not heard up here. We'll let you know if we know. Bottom line is the Brewers have their first big threat of the night. A one-out walk to Perez, a base hit by Arcia. You have the pitcher spot due up next. The Brewers do have action in their bullpen. Oliver Drake throwing down there, right-hander, with the pitcher spot due up next. And Craig Counsell will give an early hook to Suter. He does so pretty regularly. Two and one. Now this is a situation you certainly like your chances in Castillo in this matchup. Bandy's been a backup guy. 5 hits and 25 at bats. He popped up his first time.
Well, on paper it looks good.
That's right.
It comes down to executing your pitches.
And he executes that one perfect.
He may have hung that. I think he wanted it down and away. It just goes to show you that in every ball game, I mean, if a pitcher throws 100 pitches, he's probably going to make 40 mistakes. And this is one of them. Look where Barnhart is and look where the pitch is, and Bandy can't pull the trigger. So 2-2 count. I like his odds from here on out.
Big deep breath. Very tough pitch to make contact with there, but Bandy able to do so to continue this at bat.
Yeah, the good news for the Reds right here, you know, you're down the number 8 hitter, backup catcher at the plate, and the pitcher coming up next. So, you know, one pitch at a time. Don't get ahead of yourself here.
And, you know, it's a pretty light bench for Craig Counsell down there. We mentioned injuries, not disabling injuries, to Braun and Thames. Here is a 2-2 pitch to Bandy. Struck him out. 7-0.
And you're going to, as the maturity of Luis Castillo continues, you're going to see more of this. Look at the spot he's throwing the baseball. Right down there in the bottom right-hand part of the corner. Obviously, that's a scouting report for him. But that right-on-right changeup, meaning a right-handed pitcher, right-handed hitter, that's something that Johnny Cueto started many, many years ago, and it was one of the first times I really saw anybody right-handed pitcher do that consistently, and it really opened up the entire plate for him.
Eric Sogard will be announced as the pinch hitter with runners at second and third. Mac Jenkins going to come out and perhaps discuss the scouting report on Sogard. Well, he gave them a real shot in the arm last summer. Sogard did. Played very well after they brought him on board. Had an on-base percentage of nearly 400.
Kind of interesting move really here by Craig Counsell. I mean, Brent Suter has had 3 very easy innings in a row, including retiring the last 7 batters. But he may feel the way that Castillo's throwing the ball right now, that this may be their only shot.
Suter allows 6 hits in 5 innings. 4 of them came in the 3-run second inning. Sogard has a very good eye at the plate. I mean, he rarely chases a lot of stuff out of the strike zone. Last year, he struck out 37 times. He walked 45 times, making 60 starts after he was brought up from the minor leagues. Those first 2 pitches are pitches that a lot of other hitters might take a hack at. 2-0.
Go back to Brent Suter. He actually retired 8 in a row. So he was on somewhat of a roll. Sogard's hacking right here.
2 of 5 as a pinch hitter so far this season for Sogard in the 2-0 delivery. Yep, hacking away and Tardy on a fastball. 2-1.
you don't get sent up to be a pinch hitter just to load the bases right here. And with that in mind, if you're Castillo, you're thinking, well, I don't have to give him anything right down the middle because I do have a spot for him, first base open.
Castillo trying to protect this 3-0 lead with Brewers at second and third and 2 away in the inning. And again, beat him on another fastball to even the count.
Now you're getting back into the area where Castillo can start playing with changing speeds right here. His best strikeout pitch on the night has been that changeup. That's what he got Bandy on.
Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 on, 2 out in the Milwaukee 5th. High drive down the right field line and foul.
Foul ball. Wow. There was a lot of breath holding tonight on that ball. If you were wearing gray, you weren't breathing. Brewers are going to take a look at it and make sure that they've got the call right at first base. Quinn Wolcott is the first base umpire, and they've taken a look at the tape and they agree that it is foul.
Well, it looked like he tried to sneak that fastball in again on him on a 2-2 pitch, and that time Sogard, who had been tardy on the 2 prior fastballs, jumped all over. Let's see here now on another 2-2 pitch. Went with a changeup. Sogard hanging in there. What you see is what you get. Sogard has bounced around the big leagues. He's a scrapper.
He's kind of the Brewers version of Cliff Pennington in a way. Can play a lot of different positions. You know what you're going to get when you put him in the game. You don't expect him to play every day unless you have an injury that opens up a spot.
2-2 again. Change up, and this time he rolls over it. And Castillo gets a job done, pumping that fist as he should be. Brewers strand 2, 3-0 Reds. And the Brewers, Reds Live begins our coverage with 7 p.m. right here on Fox Sports Ohio, and of course always streaming live on Fox Sports Go. April in the OHIO presented by Menards. Oliver Drake will replace the starter Brent Suter Reds come to bat here in the top of the 6th inning with a 3-0 lead. All 3 runs coming in the 2nd inning.
Well, Drake right now has got a pretty good magic act going. I'm not sure how he does it, but he's been in 8 games, or making 6 games over 8 innings, and his earned run average is really good. You see it right here, 1.13. But the question I ask is this: how do you do that? By giving up 7 walks and 5 hits in 8 innings. The old escapee trick.
Yes. Pitching into trouble and pitching out of trouble.
Pull a rabbit out of his back pocket. Or a horseshoe.
Horseshoe. Duvall had the last Reds hit. That was in the 3rd. If you weren't with us in the 2nd inning, it was a 1-out double by Irvin. He scored on a single by Tucker. Then a single by Goslin. And Castillo advanced Barnhart and Goslin with a bunt. Billy Hamilton was up there, fell behind 1 ball and 2 strikes, and then shot a single into right field, driving in a pair to highlight the 3-run inning. The only 3 runs for either team of the game. Milwaukee in the just completed 5th, with its only threat of the night against Castillo.
Really looked like the way the Reds were, sizing up Brent Suter, that it would be a very short night for him. He really settled down and did not give the Reds much to sniff at.
No, his last 3 innings. 1 hit to Duvall. That's it. And you mentioned he retired the final 8 he faced. Adams stings his ball down the left field line. And that is fair up against the wall. And Duvall cruising into 2nd with a double to start the Reds' 6th inning.
Duvall getting a chance to play every day, and I'm wondering if now he's beginning to see the ball, get in one of those grooves. We've seen him, like a lot of power hitters. They get hot and then they get cold, and they get hot and they get cold. And the longer they get hot, of course, you've got to ride them while they do. And I imagine that he was probably thinking, with this 4-man outfield configuration, will I get enough consistent playing time night after night after night to get into a groove?
It's funny how so much of that was, and I think you were the guy that said it, Chris. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. You and I were talking, I think, during a spring training game about, that whole 4-man rotation in the outfield with Winker added to the trio of Duvall, Hamilton, Schebler, and how you thought that it wouldn't be too long before it'll sort of play itself out. Well, it might be even longer because 2 of the 4 can't get on the field.
That's right. Philip Irvin, who was the odd man out, is the guy that's getting the call every day.
He started 7 of the last 9 games now for Irvin. And we'll check in with Jim Day here. Jim, I know you have updates as Scooter Gennett looks at ball 2 on both Schebler and Winker. And we will check in with Jim Day here in a minute. We can't tell you, Schebler was originally sent to Louisville yesterday, where he got 3 at-bats, but they were playing in Lehigh Valley. Very, very cold, terrible night. And the Reds wanted him to get into some warm weather. So he's been sent down to Double-A. And there's a base hit into left field by Scooter. This will score Duvall. Back-to-back doubles to open this Reds' 6th inning. And after 2 batters against Drake, the Reds have tacked on a run and lead 4-0.
Well, the Brewers had Scooter Gennett playing around to pull a little bit, but we saw him do this in spring training an awful lot this year. And he's been doing it more and more, especially when he gets deeper into the count. Pitchers go away from him, and he takes it right down the line here for an extra base hit and an RBI. I imagine that there are more than just a few Brewer fans.
And now caught in a rundown is Gennett. And Shaw will tag him out.
And Shaw did it quickly enough to keep Irvin from going to second base. That's a nice play. Well, to finish my thought about Gennett, this is before he got into no man's land here and made a two plan on the base paths. And I'm sure that there are more than just a few Brewer fans are wondering, why did the Brewers just cut him loose?
Runner at first. And here's Tucker Barnhart. He knocked in a run with a single his first time up. Scored on the single by Billy Hamilton and struck out his last time. Jim Day, we were starting to talk about Scott Schebler. They have sent him down to Double-A playing for Pensacola. They're playing in Mississippi, so better weather down there. What's the deal on Winker?
Yeah, he was with well, Winker again has a problem with his non-throwing shoulder. It's the back of his shoulder, and it hurts him when he swings the bat. And as you talked about, he's going to try to do some light hitting today. And the key word there is light hitting, Tom. So the question is, with the Reds with a 4-man bench, how long can you go with a guy that can't swing the bat and can only run? So this is a problem we're going to have to keep our eye on. But hopefully Winker, he hopes that he can swing the bat fully tomorrow. We'll see.
Well, the thing was the Reds waited a number of days on Schebler, but they kept him out of the lineup. He didn't play, so when they did put him on the 10-day DL, they could retroactive to the date that he last did play.
Well, now with the new 10-day DL, you can only retroactive it 3 days. So once you put a guy on the 10-day DL, it's at least a week. And I know you talked about Schebler. He's playing down in Mississippi, and he is 1 for 2 tonight with a run scored. So again, wanted to get him to warmer weather. They sent him to Lehigh Valley in AAA, and then they were to play in Buffalo, and they got snowed out. So they got him out of Dodge so he could get some playing time.
Well, Jim, I think where Tom was going, same place. The same thing I'm thinking is that didn't they just use Jesse Winker as a pinch runner
yesterday?
Yeah,
that's what I was getting at. Peculiar when you had a chance, depending on how the hitting went today. They knew they were going to do some light hitting, as you brought up, Jim. And you'd almost bet the ranch that if it didn't go well today, the Reds would have considered putting him on the DL with a retroactive part of that. He hadn't played since last Thursday in Philadelphia.
Right, and they would hope to get Schebler back as quickly as they can. I think they're open to, if they have to put him on the DL, they can flip-flop those guys, bring Schebler back, and if they have to put Winker on the DL, and there's the move.
Runner takes off and fouled out a play by Barnhart.
Well, if you want light hitting, I would put Tom Brenneman in.
That all depends on what you're hitting.
I missed you, partner.
You too.
That was a long.
You got to be very careful when you talk like that.
I was on the receiving.
I'm not a swing and a miss on everything. Most things, perhaps, but not everything.
Oh, I've seen you play golf.
No, that's a swing and a miss too.
I've seen him play golf in a walking boot with Urban.
And, well, I ended up in a walking. It's stupid. It's just dumb. Dumb. I'm a regular swing and a miss at that. There's a high tapper down to third. Shaw thought about it. We'll take the out at first, 2 away in the inning. Well, I felt for you two guys yesterday and our entire crew, everybody. You go down to the ballpark at 9:30 and look, you're not digging ditches and you're not pouring concrete. You're not working on a rooftop or, pouring concrete. But you get down there at 9:30 in the morning and you're still sitting around at 3:45 for the first pitch. And so glad you guys made it in safely last night as they will intentionally walk Goslin and face the pitcher with 2 on and 2 out, 1 run home here in the 6th.
Have you gotten used to the intentional walk rule yet?
Love it.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder why they didn't always do it.
I think a lot of people who put up the protest at the time are probably on board with it now.
Well, a lot of those same people didn't like the advent of the wild card. I think that's been one of the great additions to our game of all time. And of course, the man who came up with that idea, I don't know if it's his idea, but he implemented the idea. They have his jersey retired. Here in Milwaukee is a longtime owner of this franchise, and of course commissioner of baseball until 2 years ago, went into baseball's Hall of Fame, Bud Selig. He took a lot of heat when he implemented the wild card idea. I mean, he had big hitters, guys like your buddy Bob Costas and many others who were hammering him regularly in the national press, and there were a lot of others. But I think everybody agrees that has been great for baseball.
Oh, it sure has.
And even the second wild card now. If I'm not mistaken, that first year they had the official wild card. I could be wrong on this now, but if I'm not mistaken, that was the last playoff series the Reds won. They beat the wild card, or they won in the first ever wild card round, right? When they beat the Dodgers in a 3-game sweep. And then they would lose in '95 in the
to the Atlanta Braves.
To the Atlanta Braves in the League Championship Series. How about
Castillo.
this? Castillo the other way. And here comes the throw to the plate way offline. So they intentionally walked the number 8 hitter to get to Castillo. That's his 3rd hit this year. And that makes it a 5-0 Reds lead. How about that?
Well, like Joe Nuxhall used to say, and say it often, anybody with a bat is dangerous. And he just takes that high pitch. Look at the reaction by Bandy, the catcher. Just is, oh my, I can't believe it. Irvin comes around to score. Gosselin goes into 3rd. That's helping yourself, young man.
2 big runs here in the Reds' 6th inning. And now a 5-0 lead. Reds 3 runs, 4 hits in the second. 2 runs, 3 hits, and a walk here in the 6th. And now Billy, who had a 2-out, 2-run single in the second inning, 1 for 3 in the game. Straight up in the air and out of play. Well, you wondered how Oliver Drake was doing it. Perhaps the horseshoe has been officially removed.
When you reach in there and there are no rabbits left, time to get the ball down.
Back-to-back double started this inning by Duvall and Jeanette, producing a run. And then a 2-out single by the pitcher Castillo to drive in another. Fastball up and in. Largest lead of this season for the Redlegs. 5-0 here in the 6th inning. Center field, and another hit and another RBI for Billy Hamilton. Billy with 3 runs batted in tonight. And the Reds lead swells to 6-0.
Now, Billy seems to be on a mission to show all the disbelievers in Billy Hamilton all spring long that he can get it together. And this is the kind of hitting you just hope he does. Just kind of lays the bat out there, slaps it down, punches it into center field. He's going nowhere at first base. Of course, Castillo standing at second.
Now the inning continues for Peraza. He is the 8th man to bat in what has been a 3-run 6th after a 3-run second. Peraza 0 for 3 had a hit taken away on a nice play made by Arcia. And Castillo breaks for 3rd. Goes in standing up. Hamilton into second base. That'll be a wild pitch.
Well, for all the things that went wrong for so long for the Reds, they seem to be getting some breaks right here. It looked like Bandy thought he had that ball blocked, but he wasn't sure where it was. That's heads-up base running by Castillo. There were a lot of pitchers that would have just hung right there at second base. Feeling pretty good tonight.
Well, now you have a chance to really kick the door down. I mean, you love your lead at 6-0, but we are in the 6th inning. Peraza hoping to make it 8-0 with a 2-out base hit. That ball smoked down the left field line by Peraza. That is a fair ball that will indeed make it an 8-0 lead. Peraza a 2-run double. Boy, and the Reds are pouring it on. A 5-run 6th inning.
Now, Peraza loves to pitch on the inner part of the plate. He gets it right here, just kind of drops that bat head. Somehow that ball kind of straightens out and stays fair. And right now the Brewers are just in damage control.
Take a look at some of the crooked numbers. Nice to see.
Everybody with a hit.
But here in the 6th inning, it's been the 2-out hitter. You know, they intentionally walked, and universally everybody would agree, they intentionally walked the number 8-hole hitter with 2 outs. But then Castillo with an RBI single. Yes, the manager, a rare smile. A 2-out single by Castillo, 2-out RBI single by Hamilton, 2-out 2-run double now from Peraza. And here's Votto, the 9th man to bat, and this is clobbered to center field. And this baby will go all the way to the wall to drive in another run. Votto, his first extra base hit of this season. A 7-run 7th inning for the Reds to make it a 9-0 game.
Now 12 hits already for the Reds after this bomb goes over the head of Lorenzo Cain in center field.
Yes, indeed. First time we've seen some smiley going on from this Reds team in quite some time. They have 4 extra base hits in this inning alone. Duvall and Jeanette to start it. And most recently, Peraza and Votto. 5 of the 6 runs scored in this inning have come with 2 men out. 4 straight hits producing runs. Castillo, Hamilton, Peraza, Votto. Jorge Lopez is up and throwing in the Milwaukee bullpen. Reds have almost as many runs in this game tonight, their strike 3, as they had over the weekend. Votto and the Reds going to town. A 6-run 6th inning. Let's take on the Marlins. You can be there for as low as $12. Got the big fireworks Friday, Super Saturday featuring the Eugenio Suarez bobblehead, Family Sundays. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Well. 6 runs in the 6th inning for the Reds. And now the bottom of the 6th for the Brewers, and the Reds leading 9-0. Castillo pitching beautifully here tonight. 5 innings of 2-hit shutout baseball. He's fanned 7. Picked up strikeout number 7 with runners at 2nd and 3rd and 1 out when it was still just a 3-0 game 1 inning ago. Top of the order here, VR, who was struck out twice. Pitch number 78 tonight coming up for Luis Castillo.
It just seems, Tom, to me, the last couple of times out with Castillo, he was much better his last time out, although not as good as tonight. But he's kind of back to the basics of throwing the ball the way he can without trying to make the ball move. It seemed like for a while there he was getting so rotational. You know, he worked around the baseball, and he was trying so hard to get that sinker to move that, you know, it got him out of what he does best, which is rear back and just cut it loose. Keep it real simple. The pitcher really doesn't want to. If you throw a good sinker and has movement, you shouldn't be able to see it. All you really want it to do is go to the plate and turn over. If you start seeing the run on it, that's when those pitches are staying flat. Well, 8 strikeouts by my count tonight on Castillo, and he's got him on a lot of different pitches. There's a blazing fastball, little slider. He's got the changeup working. The right-on-right changeup's been very, very good for him. There's a good look at it right there. So 2 walks, 8 punch-outs, and no runs allowed.
Lorenzo Cain 0 for 2 is struck out and bounced to second base. And he'll bounce out to Votto this time. And quickly 2 away. The top 3 hitters in the Milwaukee Brewers lineup tonight. They combined 0 for 8.
You know, the other thing that at an outing like this, on top of Homer Bailey's excellent outing last time he pitched yesterday, it raises the bar of expectation for the rest of the pitching staff. I mean, if your whole pitching staff is out there getting blown up every day, you don't really have any, any bar to goal. You know, you want to be the guy, of course, to be the stopper. But, you know, if you start getting back-to-back good pitching performances, all of a sudden the guy that is not pulling his weight is going to begin to get worried.
And that guy that'll be on the hook for that tomorrow night will be Sal Romano. And then Tyler Mahle after him in this series.
There's no better pressure than peer pressure. Sometimes you call that fear pressure.
Straight up in the air. Hit a long way. Hamilton at the base of the wall, and he is there to make the catch to end the inning. Didn't have to climb over top of the wall.
Hang time.
But it had to go up in the air to get it. Take a look. and relive great moments and get insights from the players. Follow Fox OH on Instagram. Here's that catch by Billy. He would tell you, you know, he's watching that ball all the way and of course has to gauge where the wall is. And then at the last minute had to lunge more to his right than he really needed to jump. But that's a good play. That ball was hit a long way high into the air. We haven't seen anybody do it any better in center field than Hamilton. And yet inexplicably, unbelievably, whatever word you want to use, he does not have a Gold Glove. Just impossible to believe. Impossible. But it would be a fact. Jorge Lopez takes over on the mound, replacing Drake, who goes 1 inning, allows 6 hits and 6 earned runs.
And he's also throwing to a new catcher behind the plate, making his major league debut, is Jacob Nottingham. They just called him up. He is one of their best prospects, Nottingham is.
And he is up because Manny Pena been put on the disabled list. So welcome to the big leagues, Mr. Nottingham. Scooter Gennett, the batter. And that's a 4-pitch walk to start the Reds' 7th inning. Strike 1 to Urban, and a rocket into left field, a base hit for Urban. That's his 2nd hit. He scored a couple of runs tonight. Boy, the hits just keep on coming. 9 runs and 12 hits through the first 6 innings. Two on, nobody out for Tucker Barnhart, who turns around for the 2nd straight at bat to hit left-handed. Had an RBI single to get the Reds on the board with their first run in the 3-run 2nd inning. .95 on that fastball by Lopez, and he gets ahead of Tucker at 0-2. The Reds won 7 of their last 12 games against the Brewers last year, after they got beat up very early in the season by this Brewers team, and especially Eric Thames. That one popped up in the foul ground and out of play. Remember, Thames last year hit 10 home runs against Reds pitching.
I think the Brewers surprised a lot of people last year with a 2nd place finish. They were only 6 games out when the season came to a halt. The year before, they were 73 and 89 in 4th place. 30 games out. That was a remarkable year for the Cubs. Council took over in 2015 after 25 games when Ron Renicke's ball club got off to a 7-18 start.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's something going on with the home plate umpire's equipment, James Hoy. But he has made at least 3 trips into the Reds dugout here over the last couple of innings. He went between pitches before that foul ball. And he's walked about 3/4 of the way over there on 2 other occasions so far here tonight. Back to the mound. There's one. And a double play. On to third goes Jeanette. 2 outs. On this date in Major League Baseball history, brought to you by Geico. How about this? I mean, this is just unbelievable. 1983, Steve Garvey appears in his 1118th consecutive game, breaking the National League record set by the Hall of Famer, the great Billy Williams. Garvey's streak would go to 1,207 before dislocating his thumb as a result of a collision at home plate. And you played for the Padres when that came to an end, right?
I was on that 83 team with the Padres.
Of course, Garvey, for those of you that don't know, is by far and away most known in his career as a Los Angeles Dodger. Although he helped the '84 team in San Diego beat the Chicago Cubs in the National League Championship Series and advance on to the World Series.
Well, when you look back at the team that he was on, though, with the Dodgers, I mean, that lineup that he was part of was quite an impressive lineup. Of course, it included Pedro Guerrero and Ron Cey and Dusty Baker.
Bill Russell, Davey Loeb, Steve Leager, and Joe Ferguson. Ground ball to short. And the Reds are done in the 7th. They stand and stretch. And the Reds stretching it out on the Brew Crew, 9-0. The Reds are offering up this year, featuring an exclusive item including a Star Wars Chewbacca, Fiona the Hippo, and Elvis bobbleheads. Guarantee these limited edition collectibles by purchasing a theme ticket package. Visit Reds.com/themes. Theme tonight, big offense, great pitching. 2 of them. Reds have scored 9 through 7. Castillo has not given up a run through 6. Travis Shaw celebrating his 28th birthday today. He has 1 hit and 2 at bats. He's been pretty good on his birthday since coming to the big leagues. 4 out of 10 with a home run and a couple of runs batted in. In fact, the home run came last year against Sal Romano. Big Sal will get the ball here tomorrow night, game 2. You'll want to join us for that. With the hour time difference, they're starting their games like the Reds have been doing here in April at 6:40 Central. So 7:40 back on the home front for many of you, most of you. That ball is in the air to left field. Duvall's got it 1 out. So Reds Live will begin everything tomorrow night at 7. Game coverage 7:30. And then an afternoon tilt with the Reds Live beginning at 1 o'clock Eastern time Wednesday. Tyler Mahle against Zach Davies to wrap up the series here. Reds will have an off day on Thursday and then a 3-game series in St. Louis starting Friday night. Jesus Aguilar's bounced into a double play and struck out 0 for 2. That ball smoked into center. Tell you, when that guy barrels it up, he hits the ball as hard as anybody in the National League.
Well, he's about as big as anybody in the National League. I mean, Joey Votto's a big guy. Look at Aguilar next to him.
Hernan Perez, a batter, 0 for 1, has bounced to third and drawn a walk. Castillo's walked only 2 all night. Struck out 8. Mets are again laying it to the Washington Nationals. 6-1 New York. Mets would be 5-0 against their division rivals this year. Of course, the Mets are beating up everybody. That's caught by Scooter into the air. And boy, a lot of top spin on it.
Well, it was one of those change-up line drives. It looked like he hit it and got it really good, but Scooter didn't want to get into the air too soon. So he timed it just about perfectly and came down with the out.
They turned her out there and pointing back and forth to Billy Hamilton. All right, 2 away in the inning for the shortstop Arcia. Big swing and a miss. Arcia struck out swinging, looked badly doing it in the 3rd inning, and then he shot a double in the right field corner his last time up. And I guess they officially scored that, as you thought they might, Chris, a single and not a double. They say he went to second on the throw. You know, that's one of those plays that I don't agree with that scoring position, that scoring decision.
What do you think it ought to be?
Arcia never stopped running. And it's not his fault that the throw didn't go to third. He was trying to play that into a double after it bounced off Urban's chest. Remember, I mean, it wasn't like it was just some base hit. Urban fielded the ball cleanly and was coming up throwing. Urban came to his right in right center field, and the ball bounces off, you know, his chest as it pops up, and Arcia never slowed down.
Well, then maybe it should be a single and an error.
Could be.
Because the fielder did field it in front of him. I'm just not that anxious to give a guy a double on a ball that bounces right in front of the outfielder.
I get it.
Of course, I can feel strongly both ways.
No, but I'm with you. I mean, but if they're not going to give the error, the point is you know, he never slowed down. He was trying to turn that all the way into a 2-base hit after it ricocheted off Urban. Jeanette a long way to get it, but that'll be an infield hit for Arcia.
Well, really, any of the noise that the Brewers have made tonight have been down towards the bottom of the lineup. It's the second time Arcia has been on base. Jacob Nottingham will make his major league debut as a major league hitter.
And for the first time all night, the Reds have some action in their bullpen. 98 pitches for Castillo. Castillo trying to keep him off the board with 2 on and 1 out.
Nottingham, 23 years old, had a pretty good season going there for the Brewers AAA down in Colorado Springs, hitting close to 300.
Had a home run early on. Came over from Oakland for outfielder Chris Davis. Spent most of last year at AA Biloxi and barely hit over 200.
And before that, he was actually signed and drafted and signed by the Houston Astros. So he's migrated around a little bit for a young guy.
Pitch number 100 misses outside. 101 now for Castillo. And he's falling behind Nottingham 3-0. Quackenbush is throwing in the bullpen along with left-hander Cody Reed. Three and 1 on Jacob Nottingham. 2 on, 2 out. Here in the Brewers' 7th, Brian Price giving Castillo, who's due to lead off, I beg your pardon me, the final out in the 7th. And strike 2. Nottingham thought it was ball 4. Pitch number 5 there. And James Hoy says strike 2. Castillo's spot is due to lead off the top of the 8th. So let's see if he can finish him off. 7 innings, shutout baseball. 1 strike to go. Now will Brian Price come get him?
Well,
or give him one more batter?
I don't know why you would. It's a 9-0 ball game, and I think it would really do much more for Castillo to finish off this inning. Now, especially since they're going to send the opposing pitcher, the reliever Jorge Lopez, up there.
And I would think his chances of finishing this inning are very
This is his first ever Major League plate appearance, I believe.
All right, let's don't forget that. The bases are loaded. And we saw a little hiccup earlier on the night when Castillo walked Suter on 4 straight pitches. You can rest assured Luis not going to let that happen again. At least not to the pitcher. 0-1 on Lopez. Nearly spun himself into the ground with that swing and a miss. All right, 1 strike away, 1 out away from 7 innings of shutout baseball. Oh my goodness. Wow. Into right center field on an 0-2 pitch. 2-run score. On a base hit, the first in the career of Jorge Lopez.
I'll tell you, this kid's a ball player. He had a pretty good swing at that slider that was a very good pitch by Castillo, and Castillo trying to sneak a fastball by him right here. And look at the reaction. Oh, no. Ball goes into the gap, and Lopez flying around first base to get into second base with a double. Hey, Hamilton does a good job cutting that ball off. Saved another run.
That's too bad. Castillo is still visibly upset out there on the mound.
Well, the performance that goes from brilliant to very good.
BR Skyline Chili called to the bullpen. Nonetheless, an outstanding effort tonight by Castillo. He is really upset with himself over the last pitch he threw in this game.
Oh, I'd be furious at myself. And I don't blame him. I mean, maybe just if you're members of the pitchers union, you understand that. I mean, he went out and had a great night overall, but man, oh man, you just wanted to put one more zero on that board. And right now, that's all he's thinking about. I like that attitude, actually, a lot.
107 pitches in the game. Left-hander Cody Reed, meanwhile, comes on from the Reds bullpen to face VR. Turn him around to hit right-handed. VR just 2 of 12 from the right side of the plate. He's better than a .315 hitter left-handed. Reed, one game as a starter, one game as a reliever. We got the one start before Brandon Finnegan returned to the starting rotation over the weekend.
VR looks like he's ready to shoot that ball to right center field just by watching his feet. Starts a little bit open, but boy, when he finally comes and gets in a hitting position, he's got that thing all lined up. Actually, a little bit towards second base, and a wild pitch to score a run.
That run will be charged to Castillo.
That's too bad.
Makes it a 9-3 game.
One of the rare times that Barnhart didn't get his body over there to block it.
So a 9-3 game, 3-1, and now it's 9-4 on the base hit by VR. And both of those runs led in by Cody Reed get charged to Luis Castillo. So here he was a strike away from 7 innings of shutout baseball. He gives up the 2-run single to the pitcher Lopez on an 0-2 pitch. And now, lo and behold, his final line will read 6 2/3 innings and 4 earned runs allowed. And that's all for Reed.
But just think about the damage that the pitchers in this ball game have done tonight to the opposing pitcher. I mean, the base hit that Castillo had down the right field line, the walk that Suter had, and the double by Lopez, and that'll be all for Cody Reed.
Quackenbush comes on.
Accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, 9-0 has become 9-4. But now taking over on the mound is Kevin Quackenbush with a runner at first in the Milwaukee 7th inning. And Lorenzo Cain, the batter. Cody Reed comes in. He faces one batter. Throws a wild pitch which brought in a run. Allowed a run to score on the single to VR. He's out. Tell you, baseball, a funny game, man. It can lift your spirits and break your heart. You go from Castillo just a moment ago, where he got ahead of a pitcher who's batting with the bases loaded in a 9-0 game. The pitcher gets a hit. Drives in 2. Bullpen comes in. Has allowed 2. And all 4 runs charged to that young man who was just sensational here tonight.
It's the kind of inning that keeps you awake all night long. I mean all night. Asking yourself, why did I throw a breaking pitch to the pitcher? Why did I throw it down and in instead of down and away when I had an 0-2 count on him? That was part of getting better. And he's already pretty darn good.
One and 2 on King. At VR, and it's shot into right field. VR first to third, and Milwaukee creeping closer and closer now with the heart of the order coming up.
Boy, this game looks so one-sided for so long. A little bit of a hanger right there by Quackenbush, and good job by Cain to slice it down the right field line. You think the Reds come into Milwaukee about the right time, as so many of the Brewers' regular players banged up and not able to be in the lineup, but they still have good offense. I mean, they've got some thumpers in here, and the guy at the plate is capable.
Ball one on Domingo Santana for 3 in a game. He just missed hitting a home run to center field his last time up. That was a play Billy made up against a wall.
He had 30 of them last year.
Reds have another reliever getting loose in the bullpen, the left-hander Wandy Peralta. I think they had an eye on him to come into this game in the 8th inning, and it may still turn out that way if Quackenbush can record this final out in the 7th. Santana, the 9th man to bat in a 4-run 7th, chasing a high gas.
Santana loves the ball up, and he's also a guy that will chase it a little out of the zone. His power is to center and right center field, and he's got plenty of it.
Try to go back there again, and this time he stays off of it. Got him looking on the inside corner to end the inning. Good work by Quackenbush. Strands 2. Brewers get 4. Go to the 8th. Reds lead by 5.
All right, thanks, guys. The Brewers scored 4 in the bottom of the 7th, but the Reds hold on and so lead by 5. And Jesse Winker, we're talking about him taking some light batting practice before the game. Steps in as a pinch hitter. He'll hit for the pitcher spot.
Well, that hopefully is a very good sign about what might be coming tomorrow. Brian Price, the Reds manager, saying that they wanted to see how the light hitting went that we were talking about. Jim Day was talking about. So apparently, if he's good enough to come in and pinch hit, maybe the Reds could get him back in the lineup tomorrow.
I'm not so sure if I'm Jesse Winker that I want the word light used in the same sentence as hitting and my name. Well, I know what they meant. I mean, they just weren't going to overdo it. In other words, he wasn't going to take a Joey Votto marathon workout in the batting cage. Very few could do that. Or a Ken Griffey Jr. batting practice session.
And Winker draws a walk to begin the Reds' 8th inning. Been a really good night for Billy Hamilton tonight. 2 hits and 4 at bats. Has driven in 3, scored a run, made a nice play out in center field. A couple of them, really. Lopez beginning his 2nd inning of work. He walked a batter, allowed a single, got a double play ball, and then a ground out. No runs in the 7th inning. Reds scored 3 in the 2nd. Barnhart with a RBI single. Billy Hamilton a 2-out, 2-strike, 2-run single. In a 3-run 2nd, and the Reds exploded for a 6 spot in the 6th inning. RBIs by the pitcher Castillo. That was a huge one. Jeanette started the scoring with an RBI double, and then 2-out RBI hits by Hamilton, 2-run double by Peraza, RBI double by Votto, his first extra base hit of the year. And it looked like clear sailing till all that noise made in the Milwaukee 7th inning. They're now within 5. And there's a walk to Hamilton. 3rd time Billy's been on base tonight. A 3rd walk for Lopez.
Here comes the riot act.
And right now, a quick message from Miami Valley Gaming.
Get ready to get lucky.
It's Derek Johnson, the Milwaukee pitching coach.
I mean, the Brewers just came back and scored 4 runs in the bottom of the 7th. They, if nothing else, shifted the momentum of this ball game. And Jorge Lopez, who was right in the middle of that rally, of course, he hit the 0-2 double off of Luis Castillo to really get that rally going, has proceeded to walk the first 2 batters of this inning. So bye-bye, Big Mo. And you know, they always cover their mouths now because you don't want to read your lips. We didn't want to read the lips of the pitching coach on that visit.
Strike 1 to Jose Peraza. A 2-run double down the left field line and later scored in the 6-run 6th inning. 1 for 4 in the game for Peraza. Back-to-back strikes. The crowd facetiously applauds. Most of the fans still sticking around. This is a very nice crowd for a Monday night. Breaking ball low. I tell you, I've been meaning to ask somebody for the last year or 2, but it would be fascinating to know, and you can take it to the bank. They have the numbers to back it up, of whatever the additional cost was to put the roof on this building when they opened it. How many times that thing is paid for itself?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they would have liked to put one on Target Field up in Minnesota. Unfortunately, the footprint on which that stadium was built was too small. They wanted a stadium downtown, and the compromise they made was they didn't have room to put a retractable roof like they do here. And they had a big piece of ground out here to build this stadium, and parking lot, everything else.
Tapper down to 3rd. There's 1. They will not double up Peraza.
Shaw had to kind of wait for that ground ball to finally get to him down there to make sure he got the lead runner out. It was perfect placement by Peraza. I mean, he couldn't have hit it any better. Shaw fielded the ball with his right foot on the bag and then threw to first base.
So now Joey Votto. Votto 2 hits and 4 at-bats tonight. A single and then a double to drive in a run. And this ball is stung hard into left, but right at the left fielder Perez. 2 down in the inning. And you say the Brewers have the numbers to back it up, but it's the hidden numbers that you'll never know about. What I mean by hidden numbers is you look at some of the weather we had the last couple of days, for example, in Cincinnati, or that first homestand. How many fans end up not buying tickets that would have bought tickets if you weren't guaranteed to be able to play a baseball game, and because you have this retractable roof? That ball clobbered again by Duvall. He is just not going to cover off the ball. 1 run scores. They're going to hold Peraza. And man, oh man, you brought it up earlier, Chris. Duvall is starting to really swing the bat. That's his 3rd hit tonight.
When you get a slugger in your lineup like Adam Duvall, you have to give him the number of at-bats to be able to put the numbers up. 30 home runs, 100-plus ribbies last year. I mean, if you're only going to play him part-time, you're only going to get part of those numbers. I don't think you can ever really get to the point where you can time and go matchup by matchup and you know, because it really doesn't matter. The matchup may favor the pitcher, but he may hang one, and there's Duvall with the barrel of the bat.
2 doubles, a single, a run scored, a run batted in. And the inning continues for Scooter Gennett. Reds now lead 10-4.
Pitching coach will be reminding Jorge Lopez that the 2 leadoff walks are the ones that have come around to score, or at least one of them has come around to score. The other's at third base, right?
That's a nice play right there by Shaw, and a long throw to get Gennett. That's nicely done by the Washington Courthouse, Ohio native. Hamilton, a 2-run single to right. 3 runs in the Reds' second inning. In a huge 6th, biggest inning of the year. A 2-out base hit by Castillo drove in a run. The second of 6 it would score in the inning. Phillies knocked in 3 tonight. And then trying to go 7 shutout innings tonight on an 0-2 pitch. The relief pitcher bats Jorge Lopez. And he drives a 2-run single into right center field, and Castillo, who pitched so beautifully here tonight. Between that base hit and then the relievers throwing a wild pitch and allowing a hit, wound up being charged with 4 runs, and he was a strike away from 7 shutout innings tonight. Wandy Peralta now takes over on the mound.
Yeah, hammer time really for Brian Price and this part of the relief corps. Wandy Peralta has thrown 6 2/3 shutout innings so far this year. Although he's dangled the wildness out there a little bit. He has walked 9 batters in those 6 2/3. The opponent, I mean, when you don't give up any hits, the only way they're going to score is they're going to have to walk in. And he's not done that yet.
But he started Shaw 2-0. Shaw on a 2-0 pitch. His team down 6
against a lefty.
Yeah, swinging. 1 out.
On your birthday, you're allowed to do that.
Although you and I both know there would have been a time in this game. You do that and come back to the dugout, you better hide.
There would be certain managers,
yes,
or certain players on your team.
That's right.
Times have changed, partner.
You played for one of those managers.
I played for a couple of them, but one in particular, Dick Williams. Yeah.
That's who I was thinking.
Yeah,
Who would be another
I knew
one?
that's who you were thinking of.
Who would be another one?
Well, I think Pete would.
Would Pete have said something to you
Pete
there?
wouldn't have to say anything. He would look at you, and you would know immediately.
Okay. I don't know why I wasn't thinking Dick Williams, but
Well, you couldn't possibly have been thinking Frank Howard, because on a 2-0 count, Frank Howard's hips are twitching.
you're probably right.
Even when he was in his 60s, he couldn't stay still.
Right off the right shoulder. Yeah, there's padding there, but it still hurts. It's James Hoy, the home plate umpire tonight. And Aguilar just blown away by a 97-mile-per-hour fastball from Wandy. Coming up Wednesday, an all-new Reds Weekly. Amir Garrett has emerged indeed as a force in the Reds bullpen. Tucker Barnard finally reacts to receiving his Gold Glove, and Billy Hamilton will analyze some of the runs he's created with his legs. Reds Weekly, presented by Miami Bailey Gaming. Wednesday at 6 on Fox Sports Ohio and streaming on Fox Sports Go. That will take us into or be picked up on the back end of our coverage of Reds baseball. Wednesday will be a day game. That ball flattened out on Gosling, and from his knees, he throws out the runner at first. What a play by Gosling. I mean, just to get a glove on it, it must have hit the seam between the grass and the dirt. It flattened out, knocks it down, and cuts it loose. Saturday, May the 5th. If you're one of the first 20,000 fans through the gate, you'll receive a Eugenio Suarez bobblehead presented by John Morrell. See your Reds in action for as low as $12. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Eugenio still traveling with a team and having all the treatment done with that fractured thumb. It's hard to believe now. It's been a week and a day ago. It was last Saturday when the team was in, or a week and a couple of days. Last Saturday, the Reds were in Pittsburgh when he had that game where he drove in 5 runs, had the game-tying single in the 6th inning, had a tie-breaking 3-run home run that was hit the next day on that Sunday by Taillon. And Just beginning now his second week on the DL. And Jim Day, how's he coming along?
He's actually coming along very nicely. They were encouraging him to begin to start squeezing the bat today. I know that sounds like a very small step, but it was actually a big step in his recovery. And he's actually lightly throwing as well. It's on his throwing hand. He's catching no problem, taking grounders all the time, trying to keep that timing intact. But so this is coming along pretty well. There's still some pain in there, but it's better than they expected.
Good news.
And that's why he's with the ball club. I mean, it used to be if you were on the DL with a broken bone of some kind, you weren't going on any road trips. Teams were trying to save money. They were keeping you back at home. You were catching ground balls. Of course, there's not a whole lot of ground balls to be caught when it's as cold as it's been in Cincinnati. But I'm glad to see him here. He's got a good influence on the players around him. And that's the kind of the fiber that you hope to have when you get a good player like Suarez begin to excel as a major leaguer and to kind of turn into a leader. And he is one of the leaders on this ball club.
First strikeout for Lopez. He gets Irvin. Irvin's had a good night too. A couple of hits, runs scored. Barnhart 1 of 4. He's knocked in a run, scored a run. On Barnhart. Goslin next. We're in the 9th inning. The Reds with a 10-4 lead. 10 runs, 14 hits, and back-to-back strikeouts for Lopez here in the 9th. 30 minutes before the start of every game, Reds Live comes your way here on Fox Sports Ohio, presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Again, Reds Live tomorrow at 7. Junior Gare off to a very good start. Sal Romano will start it for the Reds. First start of the year. Goslin lifts a fly ball to center. A 1-2-3 ninth for Lopez. We go to the bottom of the 9th. Reds try to nail it down and end the 8-game losing streak. 3 outs away. Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. We're in Milwaukee. About 7-8 inches of snow on the ground, the outside of Miller Park. Warm and cozy on the inside. And a good night for Brian Price, Jim Riggleman and company, leading 10-4 as the home team bats in the bottom of the 9th inning. Raisel Iglesias takes over on the mound.
And when he gets an opportunity for a save, it has been pretty much iron tight for him. This, of course, not a save situation. The Reds up by 6 runs in here, so he's getting a little bit of work in. And finally pitching in a ball game in which the Reds are winning. So only 2 save opportunities so far for Iglesias and the Reds overall.
By far a season high, for the Reds in runs scored in a game. In fact, they've scored as many runs tonight as they had in the 4-game series just completed yesterday against St. Louis. So a really nice way to start this road trip. And now Iglesias just trying to nail it down.
You know, it sounds bad when you say, oh, the Reds have only had 2 save opportunities. Well, that's the same number that the Braves have had, and they have not converted a save yet. The Cubs only have 3 opportunities, and they've saved 2 of the 3. And the Washington Nationals have saved 3 of 4. So maybe not as dismal as it appears.
Two-two pitch, and Arcia gone swinging, and Tucker will step out in front of the plate, get a good angle to throw it to Votto, 1 out. Now Nottingham, he drew a walk. You know, really, you go back to that situation with Castillo, and you look at that 7th inning. Obviously, he was really upset that he gave up the bases loaded, 2 out, 2 strike, 2-run single to the pitcher, Lopez. But I bet you Castillo is also kicking himself a little bit for the walk to this guy. Just called to the big leagues. That was his first major league at bat.
Oh, sure.
He was the batter in front of Lopez. Look out down there in that Reds dugout.
They didn't expect that.
No. Ryan Braun has moved into the on-deck circle. We were not quite certain if he would be available. And bothered with a sore back tightness, they're calling it, I guess, officially. It's been a weird couple of months for Ryan Braun. You know, we'll get into this more the next couple of days. But I tell you what, you know, the young general manager came to Braun at the beginning of the year and said, here's the deal. We have 4 outfielders, including you. On days where we face left-handed pitching, you're going to play first base. And while no one will say it publicly, privately, people around the Brewers will tell you he was none too happy about being asked to move over to first base. And in fairness to Braun, he has always been a guy that has always played wherever the team asked him to play. Remember, he went from left field, came in to play third base, went back to the outfield. I mean, he was a good soldier early in his career, and he's gone along with the program now. But You know, you got to give the manager of this team a lot of credit, and the general manager, because as I was talking to somebody in their organization before the game today, I'm not sure you would need one hand, the number of fingers, to count the number of general managers and the number of managers that would go to the guy who has been the face of the franchise for a decade now. Whether you like him or don't like him is irrelevant. He's been their best player by far. I mean, he's going down as one of the all-time great Brewers. But to walk up to a guy and say, hey, here's the deal. This is what you're doing. It just doesn't happen anymore in baseball.
Yeah, but if you're Brian Braun, could you afford to say no and risk getting that news out there that the Brewers asked you to move to first base and you refused?
Oh, no, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think you could say that about a lot of players in baseball. I mean, could you know, just play hypothetical for a second, and we know it would never happen. I'm just saying, you can say the same thing about Joey Votto. If they came to him and said, hey, you know what? We want you to play a little left field on certain days because we got this young first baseman. We're going to. I'm just throwing out a hypothetical there. You can make that argument really for any player, but the fact that you have management that's willing to do it just seems like in this game you don't see that much anymore.
Yeah.
What a play by Jeanette. And he is a fraction late. The Reds might look at that.
Well, Braun can't believe that Jeanette even flagged that ball down. And you may have been able to read the lips of Jim Riggleman. He looked at Brian Price and said he's out. So Bo Thompson manning the video machine down in the Reds clubhouse. Give the Reds a reason to send the umpires for a review to New York. It's a nice stretch by Votto.
Just good all the way around.
Now remember, Major League Baseball is trying to do this in 2 minutes or less. And if it takes longer than that, that's when you start seeing the calls overturned. Because they think there might be a reason to. They're going to come right back now. They're going to get a verdict in a hurry. And he is out.
Yeah, that's a good call. When you looked at the video, we see this a lot, where the player is putting the heel down just in front of the bag, and it looks like when you see the first replay or two that he's safe. But his toe has not come down on top of the bag yet. And that's what happened there. The ball hit the glove just before his toe tapped. Watch here.
And this is probably the most uninteresting part of the play. Because now all of a sudden the play by Scooter Gennett goes from something that hits the cutting room floor to being, hey, look at this defensive gem.
Exactly right. And now VR lines one into left. And that's the old ball game. So the Redlegs come away with a win for the first time since a week ago last Saturday. The Reds victorious here tonight by a final count of 10-4. Well, our Miller time hold true moments. All the offense here tonight. I mean, the hits just kept on coming. 10 runs, 14 hits. Season highs in both categories. Billy Hamilton, a big night. And really a big night, even though the final stat line may not show it for young.